Today, we're diving into something we all deal with but rarely talk about: our nervous system and how they are shaped by our past. Remember in episode 1, we talked about the polyvagal theory and adjusting your safe spaces. Well, today we're building on that foundation to understand how we can actually adjust these deeply ingrained patterns. Whether you're navigating relationships, feeling stuck creatively, or even struggling in your faith community, understanding your nervous system is like finding the missing piece of a puzzle. So let's explore the signs, unpack where these patterns come from, and most importantly, learn some practical ways to create lasting change. Welcome to Adjusting. Welcome to Adjusting, a safe space for candid conversations about mental health and well-being with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Whether you're recovering from trauma, redefining your purpose, managing mental health, or simply craving more authenticity, this show is for you. I hope something resonates with you and helps you on your own personal journey. So sit back, relax, and let's start adjusting. And we're back with another episode of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Today's episode is one of my favorites this season. I haven't recorded it, but just doing the research for it and really sitting down and not reliving moments, but finding moments to share throughout the episode has been beautiful to really document and see the journey that I've been on through therapy. I think July 7th, my dad's birthday, makes 5 years of therapy, I think. Or is it October? I don't remember. Maybe it's October 20th. I don't remember. But this year will make 5 years of me being in therapy. And we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Adjusting Podcast. Oh, so many things. But before we get too far, I want to stop and thank TJ for editing the podcast. Support his podcast, Tea with TJ Podcast. Also, you can support me and my other platforms. I'm getting ready to really beef up some things because I had an aha moment the other day. So if you want, you can follow my vegan lifestyle brand, Earthy and Cultured. You can follow my branding and marketing company, Type J Marketing, or you can follow me as a creative and performer on my personal page at Justin G. Nelson. Also, I'm working on like a promo video, but until then, this is it. Hi. I've launched a Substack channel for the podcast where I am doing a series called Adjusted Perspectives. And it's basically a more in-depth blog, if you will, or newsletter that corresponds to the episode. So right now I'm starting back from season 1. I posted season 1, episode 2, Adjusting to Anxiety, and giving a lot of points from that. So if you are new here and you haven't listened to season 1, go back and listen to that. And you can also go over to my Substack channel and see that. I put the link in the description. Also, I've launched a TikTok channel for Adjusting, so you can get all the clips, okay? And some other things from me on TikTok. So be sure, if you are on TikTok, you can follow the page there as well. Doing good so far. I think I have like 5 videos up. So I'm trusting the process. There was something Ebony shared with me the other day, because we share a lot of videos on TikTok, y'all. But it was one video that talked about brick by brick, and that is what kind of inspired me just to slow down with some things, but also know that each day I'm laying a brick towards the big announcement that is coming July 8th. Something big is happening. So I'm laying the bricks now to make that big announcement then. So without further ado, I invite you to take this sacred breath with me. I've come to a point in my spiritual journey, and in my healing journey that this podcast is becoming more and more like ministry to me. And I'm not trying to scare anyone away. I'm like, oh, Jesus, here he comes talking about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. No, but it is my way of really doing the Lord's work. You know, I've always been someone who is a helper and a safe space and just a kind listening person. So I'm using this podcast as a form of ministry. No, I do not have a desire to be in anyone's pulpit of any caliber. I can be on somebody's stage. Like, if you want to book me to do some type of TED talk, I'm available. But other than that, no. Now, back to our breath. So if you're driving, please focus on the road. Okay. I was walking down the street and saw an accident and it was scary. So I need you to focus. Okay. Also, I am dedicating this episode to my friend Dennis Whitehead, darling. He passed recently. This episode is about adjusting your nervous system, and it was an adjustment for me. He was here in New York doing Nat King Cole musical. We had talked 2 weeks prior. He was like, "Hey, babe, we gotta grab some drinks. We gotta, catch up." He is the reason I got my equity card. He was very influential with my music education journey. So, as we talk about adjusting your nervous system, I am dedicating this episode to Dennis. Now we can breathe. All right. So plant your feet on the ground. Relax your ankles, your calf muscles, your shins, your knees, your thighs, your stomach, your chest. Relax your shoulders. Relax your chin, your cheeks, your forehead. And take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And out. 1, 2, 3. All right. So I mentioned a couple of episodes ago about how your nervous system is tied to like frequencies, and it sends energy and pulses throughout your body in some capacity to let you know, like, is this a good feeling? Is this a good space for me, a safe space for me? I think that was the episode I mentioned in adjusting your safe space. But there are signals, there are signs, there are things that will let you know if your nervous system is not in alignment. Number one, physical signs. Okay, your sleeping pattern, if you are tossing and turning more than you've ever done, 9 times out of 10, there is something that is triggering your nervous system. If you, this is TMI, too much information, not to tell me. What's the thing? Is either TMI, too much information, or tell me something. I forgot what the new acronym is, but your digestive system. If you are dealing with nervous system when it comes to your mental health and things like that, your digestive system will show you. You will be bloated a lot more than usual. I'm just like, I didn't eat anything that made me feel bloated. Your body has a way of telling you that it is not feeling safe. I was suffering for a while with tension headaches, and I did a really good job masking this, but in some episodes, my left eye would twitch. And for the longest, I was just like, am I dehydrated? No, I was stressed. Okay, I was stressed. Working 4 part-time jobs, it will catch up to you. So my left eye would twitch, but you would get tension headaches and you like muscle tightness and things like that. But then there are some emotional patterns that pop up when your nervous system is not in alignment. Irritability, you're always irritated. Okay, that's one, I want to say red flag, but there's one indicator of your nervous system being off. Mood swings, anxiety attacks. I'm on medication for my anxiety, so nothing is going to stop me now. And then also, you can like hyperfixation on a lot of things, not when you're hyperfixed like on a food and that becomes your comfort thing, but like you either feel everything very intensely or nothing at all. And it's just like your attention to things is just heightened in a way where you're just like on 10 24/7 for no reason. The behavioral responses that come with being uneasy or off your pattern with your nervous system, you tend to hyperfixate on people pleasing. Like you are always doing, I want to say the most. I'm not going to say you're doing the most, but you're always available because you don't want to let someone down, or you're just like, I want to get in and fix it so we can be done and move on. Or you isolate. You're just like, I don't want to be involved in anything. I just need to be left alone. So there's either the I want to be involved, hand in the pot, or I don't want to be in the room where it happens. The need to control every detail of your life in relationships. It's an attempt to create predictability when your nervous system feels chaotic. And that's another thing I noticed. When people rewatch when people can rewatch the same show or movie or whatever over and over. Mine is music. I can listen to the same cast recording over and over and over again. And some people say it's just, well, I think science says that if a person watches like a scary movie or something they've seen before over and over again, it's because their body knows what's coming. So they will not be in a fight or flight mode, and their anxiety will be, or the nervous system will be more at ease. I think for me, it's like music. I'm able to listen to the same thing over and over again because I know when those like dopamine boosts are going to come, like, yes, this chord progression and things like that. But I also want to point out a thing that is ever trending on social media. And it has to do with attachment styles. Okay, so there's avoidant attachment, there's anxious attachment, there are, where are my notes? Hold on. There's disorganized attachment. So let's start with anxious attachment. If you have an anxious attachment style, you might notice your body getting activated when someone doesn't text you back quickly. And I'm not talking about, yes, I am. I'm talking about those people you can text at 10:01:30 and you expect someone to respond back at 10:01:34. Baby, sometimes the signal is broke. Okay, sometimes it just hasn't gone through on my end. I could be on a train and you sent a text message and I didn't respond. That's your nervous system, not mine, yours, signaling that there is either danger or someone is ignoring you or you're getting on someone's nerves. That is not the case. And that's why I talked about in my last episode about adjusting your expectations, that sometimes people are just busy. It's not you. Okay, don't take it personal if somebody doesn't respond immediately. But that's your nervous system because of your anxious attachment style letting you know that something is wrong. It's not you. It's someone just being human. But on the other side of the coin, you have avoidant attachment style. This often shows up as a physical shutdown. When someone gets too close emotionally, your system learned that intimacy equals overwhelm. Funny. So I am an anxious attachment, so I cannot relate to avoidant attachment, but I have experienced avoidant attachment and it sucks because avoidant attachment people, and this is me being vulnerable, avoidant attachment people don't know how to communicate those things. They want you to assume or to know that it's not you, it's them. But this is why understanding the nervous system, understanding how to communicate, and listening to this episode will help all of us get along. But there's another one. There is another thing I want to mention, and this is disorganized attachment. And this might feel like your body can't decide whether to move toward or away from people. One moment craving connection, the next feeling suffocated. I may have that too. But For now, I say as a Cancer, I have anxious attachment style. I feel like disorganized attachment comes from people who are like in that phase of healing where they know something is wrong, but they're so used to operating in that space that they're just like double dutching with their emotions to where they're just like, you know what, I'm not going to do it. They have a sense and a feeling of guilt and shame and regret, but after that moment passes, that clarity comes, they're just like, you know what? I made the right decision. So here are some questions to consider though. When was the last time you felt truly at ease in your body? What situations consistently throw you into fight, fawn, or freeze? These answers hold clues to your unique nervous system patterns. Everyone's is different, so don't you usually I would say like Cancers have a certain style and Aquarius have a certain style and Gemini have a certain it's not. It's most of the time it's unique to the person. Okay, because it can be your Mercury, it can be other signs, but we're not gonna talk about that. I am not doing an episode about astrology, adjusting to your natal chart, because that would be a whole podcast, like the natal podcast, because that's a lot. That's a lot. But let's move on to section 2, adjusting your perspective on nervous system patterns. I want to start with this quote. Okay, so write this down. Now that we recognize these patterns, let's shift our perspective on where they are actually coming from. This isn't about blaming anyone, it's about understanding. Okay, this is where the healthiness comes in, if that is a word, where the healthy conversations come in when it comes to understanding your pattern and why you act or react the way you do. So, number one could be childhood experiences as nervous system programmers. Your nervous system was literally shaped by how adults responded to your needs as a child. This could be teachers, it could be your parents, it can be people in a faith space. It can be people from like a program you were in as a child, like an after school care program or something. But those moments when you needed comfort, but you had to be strong instead. For me, there was a lot of moments in my childhood where and I talked to my mom about this, but it's just like I didn't want to be a burden, because like we would sit down as a family, we would talk about bills that had to be paid, or we would talk about, I would say, oh, why didn't I get X, Y, and Z for my report card? Or why didn't I? And I would just, as I got older, I realized it was more about the moments that we settled. Because what was I going to do with the money? Like I had nothing to spend it on. I didn't play video games, and if I did, my brother had it, and we played together. My dad was a computer tech guy, so everything I wanted, he was just like, here, I get it as a discount or something. But it was more like the moments that we shared. We would always do like a pizza party or something like that, or Burger King, or just something outside of the normal home cooked meal. For me, that was enough. Now, when other people's like, yeah, I got $20 for, hey, you know what? That's my $20. Okay, because you cheated off me in class to get that A. But it's fine. It's fine. But going back, the moment that you needed comfort but had to be strong instead, they created an adaptive pattern that may not serve you now. I want to say this. Who you were as a child is not who you are as an adult. Okay? There may be like an essence of how you were raised, but a lot of the ways that we were raised were from either a traumatic experience from our parents or a survival mode. And it's up to us through our healing journey and the adjustments we make to find out how we want to serve our future self. This is, again, why I created the whole U pyramid. Y'all get ready for this book, okay? Because it is going to be here soon. I gotta take some time. I'm gonna take some time to nurture it or whatever. We'll talk about that next week. But I want to point that out. This is when the whole U pyramid comes into play. The family dynamics you witness, even the unspoken tensions, were all downloaded into your body's operating system. Another thing I mentioned in another episode is about the concept in the Black family. What happens in this house stays in this house, baby. When I tell you that set us up sometimes for some damaged nervous systems, especially when there was like really nasty things that happen. I'm talking about, like, I want to say nasty because that's rude, but things that happen that really traumatized the child. Now, if there was family gossip that didn't need to get out the house, that's okay. That's different. Like, shut up, sit down, mind your business. But if there were other things that happened that would really rip the family apart, I respect that. Other than that, the whole concept of what happens in this house stays in this house, that was Black trauma. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it again. That was Black trauma. But here are a few ways in which the nervous system, or the attachment styles, reflect the nervous system adaptations. So if you have a secure attachment, that's rare. Okay, that's very rare for people to have a secure attachment. This develops when your nervous system learns that relationships are generally safe and predictable. I will say this new generation and the parents who are doing the soft parenting, they are setting their kids up for some secure attachment styles. They're not dependent on people. They understand to give people grace. They know how to communicate their feelings. They know how to take a break, how to give people space. I love that. I'm not secure. I'm not there yet. Okay. And then you have anxious attachment. That's a nervous system that learned to be hypervigilant about connection, always scanning for signs of abandonment. Me, I'm an anxious attachment person. I am working on that. There is some cognitive behavioral therapy that I can do. There are some other things that we're working on, but we got to get through some other trauma first. Okay. The third thing was avoidant attachment, which often comes from a system that learned relationships can be overwhelming or unreliable, so it developed independence as protection. That's some of y'all listening to this episode. Okay. Now, there is a world where anxious and avoidant can be good friends, and we call each other out on our things. But my avoidant attachment people, I really want y'all to not run away so much, like y'all be stressing us out, okay? Because we be right. And then the disorganized attachment reflects a nervous system caught between needing connection and fearing it, often from unpredictable caregiving. I just want to hug everyone. I just want to pause and give everyone a hug. These aren't personality types, okay? So you have your type A personality, type B, C, and then like the other letters that come with I can't think of his name, that guy. Yeah. But there are survival strategies your nervous system developed based on what you experience. So if you're watching this or listening to this, I want you to put in the description or the chat or whatever, or text me. If you come in, text me. Let me know which attachment style you are, and I will let you know if I agree or not. I can tell some of y'all who y'all are right now. But I want to go back to family trauma. I was reading a book. It didn't start with you. My friend Quintavious recommended it to me. And like I said, my mom and I talk a lot about like the podcast and other stuff. And like me being an adult, I'm able to talk to her about some other things. And Mark Wolynn, he shares how trauma responses can be inherited almost like emotional DNA. And I was telling her about the book, and I was just saying how I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now. Yes, I wish I knew then what I know now when it comes to like generational trauma. And I was just like, how was grandmother? How was her mother? How was your childhood? How are these things? And like, I've noticed like even now, my mom has done a lot of healing on her journey. She would be, I think she's a disorganized attachment. Well, no, she's pretty secure. I think she's of age to be secure, but it's more so how the role she played in the family, for her to be that she had to be a secure person for other people to depend on her. And I was just like, at some point you got to have your own rock to lean on. So that's why she and I are so close, because I'm like, okay, what's going on? We had this thing on Sundays where he after church we would come home, we would close the door, she would change clothes, I would go in my room, change clothes, we would come in the kitchen, and then we would just scream like, ah, like just let out a long sigh and just scream, and then go, all right, let's cook. So that was our thing. That was our way of regulating our nervous system. But I can't say the same for every family. I can't. And so when it comes to the unexplained anxiety, it might actually be connected to what your grandparents experienced but never processed. He mentioned about a young man who felt the trauma from his uncle. I think it was his uncle, like generations ago. And I was just like, shit. Like, there's so many conversations that families should have to really get to the root of the trauma. Like, it hurts me to see. There's this young lady, I won't say her name, but she's on TikTok and she just graduated, and her mom stopped talking. Like, they used to do TikTok videos together and make mukbang videos and reviews, and then the alleged is that her mom became jealous, and I was just like, at your old age, sugar. Like, there is an audience for you, there is an audience for her, and there's one for y'all together. Like, people loved watching this mom and daughter connection because they yearn for that, or they didn't have it, or they might have had it but their mom is deceased or something. So I just say all this to say, like, really cherish your family dynamics and have the conversation. I hope and pray that this episode will encourage you to have more conversations and apologize to people at some point and say, we had our issues growing up, we have our issues now, but life is too short. Let's really sit with it and hash it out, because it could have just been a misunderstanding. Whew, that was a lot. But moving on, the inner child perspective. Now, Mel Robbins, I love my girl Mel. She talked about this in her book, somewhere around chapter 12, 13, about the inner child. And I've mentioned this before, but how a lot of times when the trauma happens, that's where we get frozen or stuck, is in that space where our nervous system was just like, hell broke loose. Where do we go? How do we get through this? Parts of us get frozen in time, still responding from a child's limited resources and understanding. That harsh inner critic, often it's the internalized voice of a caregiver who was themselves struggling. When we overreact, it's usually that younger part of us feeling threatened or unseen. This is why I always encourage to have a date with your inner child and to be like, really sit down and say, hey, what we experienced earlier, me and you experienced earlier, was a lot. I felt you get uncomfortable. I felt us wanting to like run and hide, but we did it. We dealt with it. We know more now. We know boundaries. That's a thing. We know how to code switch. That's kind of a boundary. But we know how not to let people take our energy or take the space that we've created. So like, that is a way to really talk to your inner child and say, you are valid. How you feel is valid. What you have to say is valid. This motherfucker may not have the capacity to deal with it, but that's their fault, not yours. Yes, you can cuss with your inner child because sometimes they curse and you didn't know. I cursed for the first time when I was 4. My mom knew. But back to the episode. How do these patterns manifest in the daily life? Okay, so when it comes to dating, okay, I'm gonna start dating at some point, but not in the foreseeable future. Dating becomes terrifying when your system equates vulnerability with danger. Let's see how transparent I want to be. So, growing up, there were like groups of people in middle school, right? And I was not I was not that group of people who was doing the things in middle school. This is middle school. Like I was considered the lookout, okay? I was looking out for the people who were doing the things. But then my curiosity kicked in and I wanted to talk to people about what I was feeling. I thought that if I said it to this one person, it would stay between us. It didn't. It didn't. And from that moment on, my nervous system was shot. My trust was broken. And therefore, I felt that at that age, I cannot trust anyone else. So I stopped talking to people about stuff. I went on Google and found out myself. Thank you. Creative blocks often stem from nervous systems stuck in protection mode rather than growth mode. Okay, now this is where it comes to today. Okay. So with everything I do with Type J marketing and with Earthy and Cultured, with this podcast, with other projects I'm working on, I let some of y'all, I can't say that word. I let some of y'all really rain on my parade. And we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about adjusting your garden. But I cared too much about what other people thought and felt. I cared, past tense, too much about the likes and the views. Now, don't get me wrong. Your likes and views matter when it comes to like getting brand deals and sponsorships and like really getting some money to do this stuff because this is expensive and my rent is going up. But it's the perception that I needed approval from certain people in order to do what I'm doing or to make what I'm doing valid. Yeah, no, my nervous system is healing from that. Because while I'm sitting around waiting for your approval, you're out there doing your own thing, not concerned at all about what I have to do. Or you're struggling in your own shit and don't even know what I'm doing. So to that, I say, you're released. You're released. I'm good. I'm thriving over here. And then another thing, in faith communities, our attachment patterns with God often mirror our earliest relationships. Now, when you were dipped in the water at a very tender age, did you really know what you were doing? Now, I'm not saying go to church Sunday and say you want to be baptized again. This is no judgment. Okay, this is no judgment. If you want to be dipped again, dip, baby, dip. Okay, that's not me. When I do communion on them communion Sundays, that's my moment to say, you know what, Jesus, I sinned a little, but let me just start over again. Or you can pray. You can pray. But as you grow deeper in the word, again, this is me being churchy. As you go deeper in the word and really start to live experiences and see things come up, mainly through themes, because in my Bible reading, while my teacher is great, but there are some things he says and does, and I'm just like, bruh. But he said something today while we're reading the book of Judges that we often look for characters in the Bible that we relate to and find characteristics about them that we want in our lives, ignoring everything else that they had in their story. He mentioned Noah, I think, and how he did what he did, but there was also a lot of sin that was part of his journey. All that to say, going back to In and Out 2, you have to have the good and the bad, but also there is room for growth to understand that the whole you pyramid is all about the past you, the current you, and the future you. And God knows your path and where you are headed. So have a little more faith in him and that what you all are working on is in alignment. You'll be good. Forget what everyone else says. Your nervous system will regulate according to God's will. Boom. Tithes and offering, please. All right. So section 3. Now, this is about applying nervous system healing techniques. So we've addressed the nervous systems. We've talked about adjusting your nervous system in different ways and really understanding the different types of attachment styles and how they affect your nervous system and your inner child. But now we're going to talk about healing techniques. Knowledge is power, okay? But application changes lives. So you can get all the understanding and certification and degrees and all these things, but it's not until you apply those things. I'm not saying you need to start a brand or start a podcast, but it's not until you apply those things in your everyday life that it actually makes a change. It makes a difference. So here are approaches that can work. It worked for me. It may work for you. I can't say, here we are. All right, so let's build on the polyvagal function. I talked about that in episode 1 about adjusting your safe space. Today we're focusing on how to access that regulated state intentionally. The goal is never to feel dysregulated, okay? So your goal in any situation is not to go in and feel nervous or to feel stress. Like if I'm going into audition, like lately, these auditions have been hitting. Okay. I've gone in with a renewed spirit. Okay. I've gone in refreshed and just like, I am here for me and for a job. They need me. I need them. But the goal is not to feel dysregulated. It's to recognize it sooner and have the tools to come back to center. So if you have a huge project at work, you know the systems, okay? You know the outcome. When you apply certain tools and practices, your breathing, your other things we talk about, other techniques, you're able to like snap out of it and come back to your core. This is why I always say breathe from your toe to your head, from your root chakra to your crown chakra, and just keep that energy moving so nothing gets stagnant and it doesn't sit in your nervous system. Regulation isn't just an individual practice, it happens in relationships too. So everyday somatic techniques, a daily body scan, 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes, however you want to do it, can dramatically increase your awareness of what your body is telling you. Okay? When you feel triggered, try this. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So that is connecting you back to mind, body, spirit, your 5 senses, really pulling you back into the space that you're in. Your breath is a direct line to your nervous system. So lengthening your exhale actually signals safety to your brain. If you have an anxiety attack, you're like, I can't breathe, I'm choking. But if you can just take a second and just to make each breath a little longer and a little longer, you are giving your brain a signal. It's like, actually, I'm not stressed. I'm not in danger. Nothing's going on. Everything is good. Okay. So different approaches for different states. So for my people who are like hyperarousal, when you're anxious or when you're really nervous, not hyperaroused and like you're extremely sexual and intense and those things. Yeah, not that. But cold water on the face. This is not a cold plunge, okay, where you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a Saratoga bottle with some ice and some water and a lemon. And no. Similar, but no. Okay. I sometimes just take a cold towel and put it on my face and just really helps shock the nervous system. It helps for headaches too. But it activates the reflex and it helps regulate quickly. There's a technical term. It's called the mammalian dive, MAMMALIAN dive reflex. If you're in a shutdown or you are in a freeze state of mode, you can try gentle movements or humming. We do this subconsciously when we start rocking or we start tapping that foot or that leg start shaking. That's like a way for you to channel that anger or frustration, but it's also a good way to slowly bring attention back to your nervous system with the humming, because humming matches a frequency, and your frequency matches certain vibrations in your body. Those vibrations connect with your chakras. This is why I love living. Okay, so really find a hum. It doesn't be like a Tina Turner hum, no, no, hum, no. Okay, but that worked for her. Okay, she got through a lot, so maybe try that too. And then attachment informed healing practices. Okay. So if you lean towards the anxious attachment, practice self soothing techniques that don't require another person. We have to become happy with ourselves. We have to become comfortable, not relying on other people's validation or approval or just presence to equate to our happiness or anything else. Okay. So place a hand on your heart and breathe slow. Just say, I'm grateful for me. I'm existing by myself. Okay. I am enough. I am more than enough. For avoiding attachment patterns, start small with emotional expression. Maybe journal. Okay, you ain't got to talk to the person, but maybe write something down and say, I'm sorry for the way I responded to this. I wasn't comfortable. I don't want to say what's that book everyone's doing, the artist way, but that might be a good start for you to really channel your energy and things like that. But you can journal and write down these thoughts before you share them with other people. That way it doesn't come across as rude, but you're saying, this is new to me and I want you in my space. It's just a lot. I get overwhelmed and overstimulated, and I'm sorry XYZ happened. For the disorganized attachment person, the benefits from creating predictable routines that help your nervous system feel safe and organized. So you might be someone who needs to just make a to-do list in the morning or a to-do list at night, or keep a notepad by you at most times and just say, okay, like, I'm not feeling good, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm not feeling inspired. Let me just write some things down. Let me write down what I want to accomplish. Maybe take a nap, do some breathing, and then get started on it. Remember, earned secure attachment is possible. Your nervous system can learn new patterns through consistent and safe relationships. So if you know someone who is struggling with an anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, or the disorganized attachment, like, give them grace. Say, encourage them. Say, I understand what you're going through. I'm sensing some like anxiety here, or I'm sensing some uncertainty. What are you feeling? Just asking that question, not what's wrong with you, but like, what are you feeling? What do you need? How can I help you? Those are reflection of that secure attachment that people need or desire to get to. But asking those questions are a really good way to set up a conversation for a safe space. Okay, great. Before we wrap up, here are some specific applications that relate to different things. So I always try to relate to like the creative or the parent or the peer, the Christian, like those things. All right. So for creative blocks, try creating from something that has already been established or is resource based. So like doing something you've done the week prior to, or revisiting notes before your protective responses kicked in, before like you were just like, oh, this is good enough, or I'm not making progress. Like, reviewing is part of the process. So try that. For if you're dating, name your nervous system state out loud to a trusted person before big relationship decisions. So I talked to my best friend Ebony about any form of dating, and I will go through every green, red, and white flag before I say, I'm gonna move forward. You know what? This ain't it. This ain't it. Okay. In community settings, create micro moments of co-regulation by making eye contact and offering genuine presence. This is where small talk is okay. I don't like small talk, so it's not okay for me. But in other instances, it will be fine. Okay, so if I'm doing like my merch job and someone comes up and I'm just like, hi, how are you? And it's just like, hey, I like your necklace. It's like, oh, great. This is a chrysocolla necklace. I don't have it on today, but I usually wear that at work. And they'll say, oh, I wear this for that. Perfect. We've had a good conversation. Okay, we talked about these. We've established some things. And it's good to just have those small talks. If they come back, sure. If they don't, you've had a conversation. And for spiritual practices, notice when spiritual disciplines help you feel grounded versus which ones might trigger old patterns. I say this with love, but some people have probably outgrown their church or outgrown certain religious practices that they grew up with as a child. It's okay. Jesus still loves you. You can find a new thing. And I think sometimes this comes up with prayer and how people don't feel comfortable praying. And there's a level of intimidation with prayer because you have like your prayer warriors and like and God. I don't do that. I think that's a lot, and that's just not where I am in my spiritual journey. I am a very much Father God in heaven kind of guy. I'm very casual with my prayer, but starting with the Lord's Prayer is great, and then you can journey on from there. Add in some personal stories here and how He woke me up this morning. Things like that. Okay, now. As we wrap up today, I want to emphasize that healing your nervous system isn't about fixing yourself. It's about becoming a compassionate observer of your patterns. Notice them with curiosity rather than judgment, whether you recognize yourself in anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment patterns. Remember that change is possible. This work takes time. Trust me, I've been in therapy for 5 years and I'm still breaking some patterns. But even small adjustments create ripple effects throughout your life. Next week, we'll explore how these patterns specifically impact your relationship and your creative process through adjusting your garden. Until then, I recommend picking up the book It Didn't Start With Me or Breaking the Cycle by, who is it? Dr. Mariel Bique, Bique. I'm gonna put that on my Substack channel. But look at those. Really have those conversations with your family, your friends, not your ex. Don't leave them alone. But either like some friendships that have kind of like sizzled away, and just reconnect with them. Okay. Until next time, keep adjusting. Bye bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.